Senator John Horhn represents District 26, which includes Hinds and Madison County. Senator, always good to see you, sir. Thanks for coming in.
Gerard, great to be here.
So we've been talking about the DNC last night and just kind of breaking down the speeches and the messaging and so forth. What's your take on all this at this point, Senator?
Well, I must confess, Gerard, that the only speech I heard last night was, I guess, Jill Biden Ford, her speech, her daughter's speech, and then President Biden's speech. Of course, I have a radio show on Monday nights that I do, and so
right.
I was a little otherwise engaged. But I thought Biden did as great a job as he could, given what I think is some decline that I'm seeing in him. He really hit home on several points, but there were a couple of little slips there that kind of confirmed that it was probably the best thing that he got out of the race.
He didn't seem to be resentful of it. I didn't sense that.
No, I don't. I think that this guy loves his country so much that he was willing to take a bullet for the country, and he did with stepping back and allowing Kamala Harris to rise up. And you can say whatever you will about Joe Biden. He loves America. He loves Americans, and he's doing what he thinks is in the best interest of the country.
So Nancy Pelosi, I think I'm getting this right, said when interviewed about the situation of, I guess, being involved in persuading Mr. Biden to step down, that it wasn't about him and his performance and him as a candidate. It was about the campaign. Do you have any idea what she meant by that? I tried to parse that out and try to read between the lines. I'm not sure. She said the campaign.
I think Biden's campaign was on autopilot, and he even stuck to some themes that didn't ring home to me when he spoke last night. When you're talking about certain issues that they don't resonate with the American people, and I think he was doubling down on that in his campaign, and maybe that's what she was speaking about.
Yeah, she said, and this was from the L.A. Times, I just want to win this election, so if people are upset about her, I guess, being involved in persuading him to step aside, they'll just have to get over it, is what she said. I'm sorry for them. So,
true Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, that's maybe the most powerful person in Washington, honestly.
Well, she's one of them. That's without question.
There's no doubt about it. Very savvy. Saw the camera panning onto her. I think she was in the audience with her daughter, as well as Gavin Newsom as well. And then the senator from California that has some Mississippi roots who spoke,
yes.
Who shouted out to the Mississippi delegation.
Right.
So I think I saw some of your colleagues.
You saw a lot of my colleagues there. They're there in full force. Of course, I did not see the senator's remarks, but she is a Jacksonian, and that's what we used to call a graduate of Jackson State University. The I love. Right. So there was a lot of love there, but the start of this convention, I think, is pretty good. It's pretty upbeat. Kamala Harris has made a point to say that she wants to bring the joy back into, I won't say campaigning, but joy back into the hearts of Americans about the prospects of our future.
Yeah. Senator LaFonza Butler, by the way, is who we're talking about, who I wasn't aware, I got to be honest with you, Senator, that she had ties to Jackson until she talked about that.
Oh, really?
I don't know how that, and so I apologize for that. Usually I try to stay on top of that kind of stuff.
When she was first appointed.
Yeah. I guess I've been a little bit more focused on what's happening at the federal level. So are you looking in your crystal ball? Do you have any projections on where this thing's going at this point?
I do not. It's going to be a horse race, and it's going to be decided right down at the finish. Yeah. You know, I liken it to some of the Olympics sprinting that went on with, and I'm blanking on his name, the young man who won the 100-meter race. Yeah. It was just with just a lean that he wound up winning that race and became the fastest man in the world. But I think that's what we're going to see in this presidential race. Whoever gets that lean at the very last minute at the finish line is going to win.
Yeah. It seems like, of course, you know how the presidential politics works out in that it comes down to the so-called battleground states, and you could put 4 or 6 depending on how you see that in that category. I'm feeling like it's going to come down to Pennsylvania, just playing around with the electoral map.
Pennsylvania, Minnesota, New Mexico
could be involved.
It's still involved.
Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin.
So you know the thing about it is that what I worry about is that I think the former President Trump is making a case for the election being stolen again if he winds up losing. And I don't know that bodes well for our electoral process. You can't always be a sore loser. And if he happens to lose, I hope that we don't see some of the things that we saw in the last election. I think we may see worse things, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I don't think that you'll see that from the Democratic side if they happen to lose. I think that they'll I don't want to use a pejorative term, but they'll man up and accept the will of the people. And so what we're seeing, though, I think is folks ramping up for the eventuality. What happens if we wind up losing in the first announcement? What do we do? And I think it doesn't look good.
Yeah. There's concerns about that, and I think the Democrats have pointed to Mr. Trump when asked about would he accept the results, and he basically said if they're fair,
right.
which is a very subjective
right.
sort of term.
Right.
You know, what do you mean by fair here? So I hope that's not the case. I hope that it's put to bed and everybody agrees to the outcome, whichever way it goes, and we don't see the sort of strife we saw last time.
Yeah. I wish I had a crystal ball.
Yeah, I hear you. And then, of course, we got some key Senate races, House races as well, and a lot of the pundits are predicting that the Senate may come down to Montana. You got longtime Senator John Tester, Democrat, in Montana, a very sparsely populated state at 1.2 million. Receiving a significant challenge from a Trump-backed Republican, Mr. Sheehy. And it's sort of surreal to think, Senator, that the control of the Senate could come down to a Senate race in Montana. I don't know that we've ever seen that before. It's pretty weird.
I think Montana has a good chance of going red in that race.
Yeah.
And it would be ironic that one of the least populated states in the country would make that decision.
Yeah. It's incredible. Of course, I always thought that Joe Manchin was perhaps the most powerful person in the country for a while there. You know, his generally caucusing with the Democrats in the Senate, was a Democrat, now an independent, but I guess did not align from them, dissented with them on some key policy in the first couple of years when they also had the House, and that sort of put a blockade on the Biden agenda. I feel like we may be at the point where we're going to have divided government again, though.
I don't think there's any question about that, Gerard. We in America are more divided now than any time since the Civil War, and in many ways we can maybe say that this is another Civil War in the making.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't wind up being something that winds up in the streets, but the policy differences that we have, our political differences, our worldview differences are just so strident and so stark. It really shows a lot of division, and I don't know how we're going to heal this country, but heal it we must, because if we're going to save America and have America be the country that we want it to be, we've all got to come together and not keep pulling each other apart.
Yeah, well said. I agree, I feel like both sides acknowledge that and recognize that. They just have different points of view and different approaches on how to unite the country and how to achieve that.
And it comes down to the truth. What is the truth? And now we have a situation where I have my version of the truth, and you have your version of the truth, and there are all of these things that support my version of the truth, and all these things that support your version of the truth, and we're bombarded with this stuff.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the soul of our country is what's at stake.
No doubt. Well, if you could hang around, we can continue to talk. I'd like to ask you some questions about the tumult in the city of Jackson.
Oh, my Lord Jesus.
and then maybe dive in a little bit to the 2025 legislative sessions right around the corner as well. So we got Senator John Horhn in the Element Well studio. We're coming right back. This week, wanted to remind you that Sports Talk Mississippi will be at the Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College today in the Dantzler Arena. That's at the Perkinston campus as they kick off Meet the Bulldogs night. Hear about the incredible things happening at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College tomorrow. That's actually today with the Sports Talk Mississippi boys. So we're back in the Element Well studio with Senator John Horhn. So, Senator, the city of Jackson in your district has certainly been in the news quite a bit the last couple of weeks with Councilwoman Angelique Lee rather abruptly resigning and admitting she was involved in what appears to be a bribery sting by the FBI involved there. And the word is there's perhaps more coming with respect to the DA and also even perhaps the mayor. So do you got any thoughts on this? Have you heard much about it?
Alleged that there may be one or two other council persons that are implicated.
Okay.
It's a sad state of affairs. I'm really sorry for Councilwoman Lee. She served her district, her ward very well. She was very outgoing, very, very involved. And I just... It's a sad state of affairs. We work so hard to try to put the best face on for Jackson, and then when issues like this come up, it just knocks us down and knocks our breath out. So it's going to be tough for us to climb back out of this hole that's being dug for us, and it's really unfortunate. But I hope that folks will focus on the health of the city, the survival of the city. And the survival of his people. Yeah.
So there's rumors going around that you are considering running for mayor of Jackson. I know you've done that in the past. Are there any truth to these rumors?
There's some consideration being taken. We're looking at it very heavily. We've done some polling. Our polling looks excellent. We're getting a lot of great encouragement, and I think that folks want someone who's been around the track a time or two, who's got some experience, who's got a record of results, and who has a fairly decent relationship with the state of Mississippi.
Yeah.
And so we're taking a look at it. We haven't decided to pull that final trigger yet, but we're very close.
Okay. I understand. So if you've thought about kind of what your agenda would look like, what you think needs to happen to improve the conditions and quality of life in the city?
Excuse me. The two issues that continue to rise to the top are crime and infrastructure.
Yeah.
That's no secret, and you can probably use that same phrase on any city in America, quite frankly. But in Jackson, it's real. The crime is real. It's horrible that you don't have security in parts of Jackson where you feel comfortable staying in your house, and you're afraid to leave your house. And so it's a tough situation. So we've got to get the criminal element under control. I think that there's a really good partnership going on with the Sheriff's Department, with Capitol Police, and with Jackson Police Department right now.
Okay.
When we're seeing a tamping down of a lot of the criminal activity in the city with a coordinated effort. There's got to be more of that. We're not out of the woods yet. We're still the city. It's a city its size with the highest homicide rate in the country, and that's unacceptable in a place like Jackson. So we would be looking at getting crime under control, doubling down on our infrastructure. We've got the water pretty much resolved. It's on the way to being resolved. Water, sewer, pretty much the same. but the streets are horrible, and that 1 cent sales tax is not going to be enough to cover what we need to resolve the issue with our streets. So that's the infrastructure and the criminal element would be what we'd be looking at uppermost in our minds, and then following that, education and job performance.
Are you pleased with the results of the newly formed Capitol Complex Improvement District? Do you think that's been a positive for the city?
It's been a necessary evil. I don't like the idea of I mean, we got a government within a government in essence, and the state felt that it had to step in to take control of some things like what's going on with our judicial cases, what's going on with the policing in certain parts of the city, the fact that we need maybe some additional prosecutors. And I think that's having the desired effect, and it's a good effect. Things are calming down. I just hate that it had to come to that in order for us to get to this point.
Okay. What's kind of on your radar for the coming legislative session? We're about 5 months away from that.
Yeah. Well, the Lieutenant Governor Horhn gave me a new assignment this year, which was to chair the housing committee for the Senate, and we got close this year in terms of the state trying to help address some of the issues with affordable housing. There's at least 5,000 units that need to be built in Mississippi right now, and we don't have the money to do it. The cost of insurance has gone through the roof, the cost of labor, the cost of supplies and materials, and so I want to see us have the state take a firmer look at how we can help with developing more affordable and decent housing. Okay, that's one thing, and I think that we'll probably see another stab at Medicaid expansion. Okay, it's not an issue that's going to go away just because it got defeated in this past session. I think we'll see some additional efforts to bring it back.
Interesting. What about some of these other high-profile matters that I guess passed the House, didn't get very far in the Senate? Mobile sports betting was one, for example. Do you have any thoughts about that one?
Really don't. I don't understand mobile sports betting. I don't understand the concept of it. Okay. That's just another way for me to lose my money and give my money to somebody else. I'm not really in favor of all that, but I think it's coming. I think we will see a mobile sports betting bill next year, and it probably will pass next year. Okay.
Well, that was one. And then I know that Representative Trey Lamar is still working on additional income tax reform. I think Speaker of the House Jason White's having an event in a couple of weeks, sometime in September as well, with a focus on that. You see anything going on there?
Oh, I think we're going to see something. What I would like to see from the Republican leadership is a focus on the taxation on groceries. Everybody pays that tax, and everybody's impacted by it. But the poor and the folks with limited income are impacted a lot more drastically because they have less money to go around. But if they come with a proposal that addresses reduction of the grocery tax, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and the governor said he would sign any reduction of any tax, essentially. And we had Lieutenant Governor Horhn on about 3 weeks ago, and he indicated the same, that he seems to be in favor of that.
Well, a few years ago, under Amy Tuck, when she was Lieutenant Governor, there was an attempt to lower or eliminate the grocery tax. The problem is that the proponents did not. Those grocery taxes pay for education and a lot of other essential items that the state needs. And the solution that they came up with was we're going to replace it with an increase in the cigarette tax. And I'm going, well, wait a minute. Don't we have a smoking cessation program going on where we're trying to get people to quit smoking? So we're going to pin our hopes up for our education funding on whether folks continue to smoke or whether they don't. It just didn't make sense to me, and I voted against the bill.
Seems to be perhaps a dangerous projection based on that. Well, I don't know exactly what Representative Lamar has in mind and what may come out of the House, but I feel like we'll learn something about that when Speaker White has his event in a few weeks. And see,
I know that they're holding some hearings on that, and also some hearings on incentives to help make the city of Jackson more attractive.
Okay.
And I'm really interested in hearing what they have to say about that. The Senate does not have a counterpart committee, so the House is kind of driving that train.
I got you. Some sort of financial incentives for perhaps companies to locate in the city of Jackson?
Companies to locate and folks to do development, housing, and commercial development, yes.
Got you. All right. Well, we look for one day perhaps seeing you announce that you're a candidate for the mayor of the great city of Jackson.
Well, if we do, it's going to be soon, Gerard. The clock is ticking, and the race is right around the corner.
Yeah, absolutely. Senator, always good to see you, sir. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Gerard.
Folks, we're stepping aside for a break. We're in the Element Well studio. We're coming right back. We got half an hour of talk left. Stay